What's up people, Fernus here, and welcome to part 2 of the Puppets riffs that you might be playing incorrectly. If you didn't catch part 1, there should be a link up on this corner, and also there's gonna be a link to it in the description. But yeah, let's get right to it. We left part 1 before the spider riff, the cool riff, you know, however you wanna call it. I think the most familiar way of playing this riff to most people is probably going to be this one. Which is, for the big most part, correct. There's just a very sneaky change in how you have to end the riff a couple of times. And like in part 1, the tail end part here is key, because every time we have to go into this riff, and also the part where we end with this power chord, the changes in how we go into those two parts. So I feel like most people probably think that you still have to do the 0-1. And here's the sneaky change. What you actually have to do is that, but backwards. So 1-0, and then we go into those notes. So and here is up to speed. Again, just a very sneaky and small change here, but it is how the record sounds. I'm not sure if that's how they still play it live, but yeah, you know, we're checking out the record version on these videos specifically. So the second riff on this video is going to be the verse riff, and I think this is how most people know it. And I'm here to actually save you from some downpicking. Literally just one downpick if we're gonna be accurate though, but it is going to be on this part. So on those two power chord slides, you don't need a palm muted open 6th string in between those two. So the full riff would be like this. So yeah, you can rest your picking hand, you know, like a millisecond more. And now before we move on to the next riff, we're gonna stay on this same riff for one more thing. So as some of you probably know, James, when recording rhythm guitars back in the day, really liked to layer a ton of guitars together. So if you don't know what layering is in the guitar world, it basically means that you're recording the same thing more than once, so that when you play it back and you know, you usually pan it to both sides, it has the effect that makes the recording feel bigger and also sound wider. For metal and rock guitars, you basically always want to record a minimum of 2 rhythm guitar tracks to play, if not 100% the same thing, it's almost the same thing, because it gives you that stereo effect that makes the recording sound, again, bigger and wider. It is worth mentioning that it is required that you record 2 separate takes, and that's very important. Instead of just copy pasting one performance and, you know, you put one on the left speaker and the other one on the right speaker, that will not give you the same effect. As to why this happens, I could do a separate video on the subject, as audio recording is something I'm very passionate about, so let me know in the comments if you're interested. The whole point in mentioning this is because according to the engineer that recorded the Puppets album with Metallica, James layered not 2 but a minimum of like 4 guitars, and at some points there were even like 8 guitars going on at the same time. This is actually very important in this riff. That is because on those 2 same power chord slides, so you know that if you listen closely, again, in the remaster version or the isolated guitars, you can hear both the power chord slides, but you can also hear an octave slide, so like this. So what's most likely happening here is that some of all of those guitars are playing the power chord slides, while other guitars play the octave slides. How many guitars and which one was playing which, I have no idea. If I had to guess, at that point it was probably just 4 guitars, so 2 of them would be playing the power chord slide, and the other 2 would be playing the octave slide. But you know, that's just a speculation and my guessing. I think that there could be a chance that not even James or Rasmussen remember how many guitars there were in that specific part. But what I am sure of is that you can hear both the power chord and the octave slides. So which one should you play? I'd say it's just up to you, whichever one you like how it sounds better. Now, finally moving to the third and last riff we're gonna check out on this video is the pre-chorus riff, which is the same as the verse riff, but a full step up. Well, almost. There is a small difference. That's because I've seen a fair amount of people a lot of times playing the riff, exactly like that, a full step up, so, like this. Which it makes sense, right? You're just taking the same riff and again, just playing it a full step up. But going from the 2nd fret to the 5th fret to do these slides, in my humble opinion, it's fairly awkward and uncomfortable to play. And luckily, James probably thought the same thing when writing this riff. As a matter of fact, one thing James likes to do a lot when he has to play riffs like this is that instead of doing the power chord slide from the 5th to the 7th fret, he likes to do this hammer-on version instead. A few examples of these would be the Dire Thieves main riff, and on the same song he also does this on the riffs that go beneath Kirk's solo. Through the Never's chorus comes to mind. There's probably a few more riffs that I'm not remembering right now, but yeah, that would be the correct way to play the riff with the hammer-on version. So here would be the riff in full. And we're gonna pause part 2 here. I will keep going with this puppet series. Probably not next week, but rather in 2 weeks. I gotta deal with some personal health issues during next week, but in the meanwhile, yeah, do the typical YouTube stuff. So subscribe for more if you thought this video was helpful. And also sharing it and liking it obviously helped me out a ton. Maybe check out one of the 2 videos that should be popping up on this site if you're interested. And yeah, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.